everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by the author of How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, taking on liberal arguments with logic and humor, PragerU's Will Witt. Will, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I got to be honest. I follow you on Instagram. I love your videos. I love sort of like the acting you do with like a towel on your head or like whatever you've got in your apartment, apparently, to show how crazy the left can be these days. I think a lot of people know you from these videos, but I just found out you have not been a conservative for your whole life. You were at one time a liberal. You were at one time an atheist. How did you end up here? What is going on?
I know, I was a liberal atheist, and now I'm here talking to Lara Trump. I mean, what an amazing turn of events. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and I was basically a liberal my entire life. I was an atheist my entire life, and I wasn't just an atheist or a liberal. I mean, I would go around and tell people how stupid conservatives were and how stupid God was. I mean, that was the type of person that I was. But I grew up with just my mom, and she taught me a lot of values. And I went to college and realized that the common sense values my mom taught me were not really the values that anyone else at college had. You know, I went to the School of Colorado Boulder, which we call the People's Republic of Boulder. And I was an English major, which was a totally useless degree, and had to take sociology classes, which were useless classes. And all they taught you about was white privilege and how bad capitalism was. And, you know, these were things that I'd never really heard about or thought about. And I was like, is all these things that my professor and everyone else saying, is this really true? And so I started looking into it and talking to other people on campus, and I started getting very involved with the conservative movement. I like totally had a 180 shift where I was working with Turning Point USA, I was working with the Republican Party in Colorado. Then eventually I found out about PragerU and made a video for them, and they ended up loving the video I made. It was my first kind of man on the street thing where I asked women on my campus about the wage gap, and I sent it to PragerU. They loved it, and they said, hey, we'll give you a job. And so after 2 years of school, dropped out, moved to Los Angeles, no money, not knowing anyone, but knowing that I had a purpose and something that I had to do. And so I moved out.
Wow. I mean, I just want to go back really quickly to your 180, because what you're describing, learning in college, is basically, it's the indoctrination that's going on, not just on college campuses, Will, but really within our entire educational system in America right now. I mean, our kids are being inundated with the nonsense that you just described: anti-capitalism, white privilege, critical race theory nonsense, basically meant to divide us up in this country. And it's sort of amazing that you had the insight to say, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right about this. Did you get a lot of pushback whenever you were kind of, or I don't know, what happened on your college campus when you started like talking about, is this right? I mean, were people kind of like, well, you're crazy or racist back then, or how did that go?
Yeah, definitely. I got that all the time on my campus. I mean, I remember when Trump won the election in 2016, and that day on campus, I mean, you would have thought it was a ghost town. The only people who were on campus were a bunch of leftist students who were in circles, you know, holding their arms together, crying and singing Kumbaya the day that he won. And I'm there with, you know, my MAGA hat, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like,
oh my God,
this is pathetic. You know, and so people would say horrible things about me, and basically all of the friends who I knew back then, I don't talk to really any of them anymore. You know, that's just how it's really gone. And so I've made a lot of awesome new friends, of course, you know, doing what I do now. But all those people who I used to talk to, I don't talk to anyone. One of the major factors of me becoming a conservative was the girl who I was dating in 2016 was a huge Hillary Clinton supporter. You know, and we got into some argument about something, and I remember she was crying in my car as we were arguing about something, and she said, "You sound like a Trump supporter." That's what she said to me.
Wow.
And I'd never really thought about it that way.
The devil, Will. You sound
I know,
like
that's what
devil.
I am. No, that's what I am, right? Far-wing extremist, you know, just for having a difference of opinion. And that's how people look at it. That's how young people look at it in this country. They look at you that if you have a difference of opinion, then you are literally Hitler. You are a horrible person. I mean, you are evil. That's how they look at you. The left thinks that we're evil, and conservatives think that the left is brainwashed. That's the difference between the two sides.
Well, but the problem is nowadays that there is no space for public discourse, right? You can't even have a conversation well with people because they don't want to talk about anything on the left. They just want to shut you down. They want to call you names, and that's it. They don't want to have a conversation. And then, gosh, how many of these sort of like town hall meetings or school board meetings have we seen where people are coming out and they're taking a conservative stance on things? the whole thing gets shut down. These people get kicked out. They get dragged out by security. I mean, I guess their answer on the left is basically they don't want to talk about anything. And you had firsthand experience with this. I was watching one of the videos that you just recently posted, and I want you to talk about your book in a minute, but you're on a book tour right now.
Right.
And you went to speak in Maryland, right? And
University of Maryland.
So tell me this story, because I mean, it goes to exactly what I'm talking about. These people don't want to have a conversation. It used to be in America that we could all learn from one another. If you and I disagreed, then I would want to hear your viewpoint on things and you would want to hear mine. And you know what? We could all learn something from one another. Those days are gone and they are over in America. Tell me what happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a huge believer in unsafe spaces. These safe spaces that we have now are the destruction of America, the destruction of the Western world in general. Think about the founding fathers. Their ideas to break away from Britain, from Great Britain, and start America. I mean, think about how unpopular of an idea that was, how they were in the minority. And so people are worried that it's like, oh, you have this minority opinion, your opinion must be wrong. And it's like, no, the best people in the world who did the greatest things in history had opinions that no one else really believed in. And so you have to be willing to go and have those conversations. And that's what I tried to do yesterday at my event at the University of Maryland. And I gave these people, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I went out there and I said, hey, they have signs that are saying Will Witt is a racist and a liar and, saying horrible things about PragerU and Turning Point and those people putting on the event. And I go out there and I'm like, hey, I'm sure that people who are conservative might have said lies about you guys, and I'm sure that you guys have heard lies about me. So let's have a conversation and let's talk about it, and we can come to an agreement. I said that verbatim. I was trying to be as candid as possible to just go and talk to these people. And what do? They yell at me, they scream at me, they tell me I'm a horrible person, they scream sexual, weird joke, slur things at me that I don't have to repeat here, but they were,
oh my God.
It was just a very disgusting, immature way to act that many of these people did. And it's like, I am giving them every opportunity to come to my event, ask questions. I am right there in front of you. Tell me exactly what you think and let's talk about it. And they won't do it. They refuse to do it.
Wow. But doesn't that say a lot about really where we are in America right now, that basically their comeback is just to call you names. They really have no foundation on which to stand. They have nothing backing up their point to that, well, whatever, that you're a racist. Believe me, I've heard all the names in the book myself. Right. And I will say that you truly, when you have protesters like that, Will, you truly have crossed over some bridge. You've really been welcomed into a little glimpse into what it's like to be part of the Trump family. But I take it as a badge of honor that happened, because these people obviously can't even back up a point. And that is a really scary place, I think, to be in America. Now, having been kind of fresh off the college campus, you're 25, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're in this demographic, which is most of these people are liberals. Most of these people hate America. They've been taught to hate America. They've been taught that if you're white, you're bad, that if you're black, you're disenfranchised, that America is irredeemable, that we're a racist country, all this terrible stuff. Do you think we have a chance to turn this around, Will? I know you wrote this book, and I assume part of the reason that you wrote it is because you must have some glimmer of hope that we can get back to an America that we can all agree is a great country.
I have kind of a different answer on this. I wrote the book exactly because I want people to be able to have conversations and change people's minds. But someone asked me essentially that exact same question in my speech last night in the Q&A. And my answer is that I see America going downhill as an entire country, where we have the Constitution being stepped all over. The people who are in office aren't doing anything to protect us. We have people who are rhino Republicans who say they support the First Amendment, and then they take money from Google. PragerU is suing Google because they restrict conservative speech, and we're seeing people not represent our values. And then inflation right now and China and all of these different things come together to make America where it seems like it's an ancient Rome like type of collapse with a lot of the things I'm seeing. But with that being said, I wrote the book regardless of all of that, because people can still be the best individuals that they could ever be, especially when you see hardship around you. Like, if there was no struggle in America, if things were so good and so easy, I wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't be doing this show.
Right.
But the reason that we do these things is because we see all these things happening and we want to talk to people about it and educate people. And so while bad things are happening in America, and things, in my opinion, are going to continue to get worse for a while, I think that individuals can be just the most amazing, articulate, and passionate people that they can be, because they see the things happening around them and they can do as much as they can as an individual about it.
Well, you're really, I mean, you're hustling out there. I got to tell you, you're basically, what are you doing, like a cross-country tour with your book right now?
Yeah, basically. So finishing up this week on the East Coast, and then middle of the country next week, and then West Coast the last week. So three whole weeks. That's
awesome stuff. And basically in your book, tell our audience about your book, because from what I gathered watching your video on your Instagram page, which if you don't follow Will on Instagram, you should go follow him because you have really good content. You tell me why you essentially wrote this book. It basically gives people an opportunity to read about a lot of the things that you just said, but then have the ability to formulate arguments so that if they're in the car with their girlfriend who is a Hillary Clinton voter, like you found yourself in, way back when, then you have a comeback and you have basically a reply for all the nonsense that the people on the left constantly are putting out there. And they're saying, but what about this, right? I mean, that's basically what this book is.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I want people to be prepared. I mean, I'm sure you go on your Instagram or Twitter, whatever, and you see people in your comments and they're just arguing, and it's for the most part pointless. And even, the people who are conservative have bad points and the people on the left have bad points, and nothing's getting done. So I wrote the book essentially that there's 17 different chapters on different political and cultural topics. Each one's a different one, like racism's one, police brutality, climate change, cultural appropriation, all these different topics. And then each one essentially gives you the facts for about 2/3 of the chapter, and then the last third of the chapter is the questions and persuasion tactics that you can actually use to change people's minds, or at least educate them and have a good conversation. If you're batting 500 changing people's minds, that's a pretty good day. So, it's not like you're going to be able to change everyone's mind, but it gives you at least the tools that will say, hey, at least I tried, and at least I did it in the right way. I can go and actually talk to people now. So Pam at your PTA meeting who starts spewing about
Pam.
Pam.
Come on.
Damn it, Pam. And she starts spewing about, mask mandates and things. You can take the book, reference the chapter on COVID, and use those tools to change your mind. Or, the blue-haired kid in your world history class. You can use the tools in the climate change chapter to talk to them about that, whatever it might be. So it's really a reference guide and a tool for all sorts of people to use in America.
Well, I think it's really smart. And I mean, you seem to have accomplished quite a bit at a very young age. Your mom must have done something right raising you, because you say that basically she was a single mom, right? Is there something that you feel like she did that really gave you such a grounded approach to things? Because I mean, gosh, you're 25, you have obviously a great job to some degree with PragerU. You have created, an online personality. You've written a book now. What do you feel like your mom did? Because I got 2 young kids. Well, I need all the advice I could get.
No, I'm here. This is like Dr. Phil now, so I'm here to give you advice on parenting. No, I think it like thinking about Jordan Peterson, like his entire philosophy can basically be boiled down to 2 words, and that's personal responsibility. And I think that's what my mom taught me. She taught me not to be entitled. She was very hard on me growing up. So like if there were crumbs on, 100%. I didn't get a trophy when I lost. If there were crumbs on the counter when I was supposed to clean the kitchen, I would lose my privileges for, weeks. That was how it was. I got grounded all of the time for sometimes menial things that didn't mean too much. But in the grand scheme of things, looking back, I'm very glad that I grew up this way. And so with the personal responsibility and how my mom raised me, it's like, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted to be this person, to write a best-selling book by 25 and have my show and influence people and do national speaking and all of that, no one's going to give that to me. No one's going to say, oh, well, wait, here's on a silver platter. You can just come and do it. If you want to be the best person, or, I'm not saying I'm the best person, but I'm saying just in general, if you want to be someone who is amazing, you have to do it yourself. You have to be a go-getter. You have to take that out into the world and pursue it. No one's going to give it to you. And so I think my mom teaching me that was probably the most important thing, that said, if you want something in America, you want something in this world, you go and get it. But it's on you. It's not on anyone else to hand it to you.
And it's such a good point. I feel like we always come back to this place somehow on this show, probably again because I'm a mom, and now, like, in retrospect, seeing all the things that my parents did and made me do, things like what you're saying. I feel like we have, sadly, a very large demographic of young Americans who feel like they're very entitled, quite frankly. They don't think, well, that they have to work for anything. They think things should just be handed to them. And they're not willing to do what you're talking about, to put in the work, to basically achieve the American dream. I mean, in America, if you want something and you're willing to work for it, you can do anything you want. And you're hard pressed to find anywhere else in the world where that is a reality. It's one of the things I truly think makes this country so incredible, for as much as people like to trash it these days. But these kids, I mean, maybe that's why they're so angry and they have such a chip on their shoulder. Their parents told them that everything's just going to be given to them, and then you get in the real world and that's not the case. I hope that for the upcoming generations, we got people that are going to say, look, if my kid is not going to be my friend, if your kid, quite frankly, doesn't like you from the time they're like 12 to until they're like 20, you probably did something wrong. But I don't know. I guess there's hope. Do you feel hopeful for the future?
Well, I think that, talking about the entitlement from young people, and we're saying, the real world isn't this entitled place that they grew up in. It's turning into it that the real work world is now this entitled place. I mean, yeah. And that's kind of the major problem that I'm seeing, because people feel like if there is any sort of discomfort in their lives, then everything's wrong. They can't have the wrong smoothie order at the coffee shop, or every single thing in their life is ruined, right? So I don't have a whole lot of hope for that, just because I think our generation is really screwed. But I think that, again, I have hope for individuals that when people who actually wake up to what's going on. I mean, I do a show with this girl Amala who works for PragerU. I'm not sure if you've seen her.
I've seen clips of that. It's great.
And thank you. She used to work for the left, and she has a Black Lives Matter fist tattoo on her arm.
Wow.
And so it's like someone like that can change and become a hardcore conservative. I mean, I have to tell her sometimes, I'm like, hey, maybe that's a little too far right, like she's incredible. And if someone like that can change, then really anyone can. Any individual can, as long as they can wake up. So even as a whole, I see things getting worse. I think that every individual can be amazing and great.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of people like you and like her out there that, I mean, the crazier things get, quite frankly, in this country, I feel like more people every day are like, wait a minute, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why is this happening? My gosh, especially with the leadership, if you can call it that. I use that term very loosely in the White House right now and in Congress right now. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully people can get your book out there in the hands of maybe even their like cousin who's a super like raging liberal, and maybe they'll learn something, and maybe something will just tweak in their mind. They'll say, wait a minute, some of this actually makes sense. Maybe I'm more conservative than I thought. I feel like people every day that happens, because I hear about it every day, just like you're saying. I want to talk really quickly about California, because at the beginning of the pandemic, you created a mini documentary called Fleeing California. I mean, it's received, I guess, millions of views at this point, right? Is it safe to say that even more people are fleeing California now? I mean, maybe were you ahead of the curve on this one, Will?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that more people are going to leave. And I think that's actually a good thing. I've kind of given up hope on California with this last recall election that just happened last week. I mean, we saw in 2020 with Trump votes, I mean, we had about 6 million people in California come out and vote for Trump. And during this recall, we had about half that amount. And yeah, we can put it up on foul play, and we can say, who knows what the left did when it came to the votes and everything. But regardless of that, people still just didn't come out and vote in California. So I think that people are demoralized about what's happening there, and I think that people have every right to leave a state that does everything that it can to destroy you and destroy your will to live. I mean, essentially, in Los Angeles every day, we have mask mandates still. I know the rest of the country doesn't, but in Los Angeles we do. And I mean, I have to get yelled at every single day for not wearing a mask everywhere I go. And that can be demoralizing for a lot of people, I understand. And so I totally agree with people. People should leave. People should go find a new red place to live. But if you go to a red place, that doesn't mean you stop fighting. That means you fight even harder, because the left will find that place and destroy it. I mean, look at Texas.
It will.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right. I moved from New York to Florida, like, 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago now. And I literally had dinner with one of my friends last night. I haven't seen her since I moved to Florida. And she was like, oh my God, you'll never believe who we had dinner with the other night. These people that are like, they came out, they were like, DeSantis is terrible. And she was like, get out of this state. Do not ruin this state. you're exactly right. You have to fight harder if you move to a red state, because we don't want that nonsense here. That's why we moved here. Please don't bring it here. So I agree with you 100%. And didn't California also last week just do some, I mean, permanent universal vote by mail situation as well? So, I mean, California, it's over there, right? Like, it's done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think of it like in ancient battles of old where, you know, let's say it's like the Crusades, like you go and take over a city and then the enemy comes and takes that city back. You haven't lost the war, you just lost a battle. And then you move to another fortress and you refortify there. And that fortress seems to be Florida right now for a lot of people. I mean, I'm trying to leave California as soon as I can and get out to Florida, hopefully Tampa or Fort Lauderdale area, something like that. But
it's so nice here, Will. I got to tell you, you're going to love it. I love it more here than I ever imagined, and I knew that I was going to really, really like it. Great lifestyle, great people, all good. Come on down as soon as you can escape that basically fully communist state you're in now. So I want to, before I let you go, I want to find out for all of our audience, how do people, order your book? How do they come find a place where you're speaking? Because, I mean, I think it would be great to hear from you in person.
Yeah, so people can go to on my social media at the Will Witt. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever. All those are at the Will Witt, and then you can find in my bio on all those basically where the entire tour is. And I'm actually in Florida this weekend, so I'm going to be in Fort Myers, Tampa, and Orlando, and all those places speaking for my book tour, and then the rest of the country as well. So, and they can order my book on Amazon or anywhere books are sold, and I would really appreciate it. It's your guide to changing minds, so you'll appreciate it yourself when you get it.
Just a side note on LinkedIn, I have a lot of requests I get for LinkedIn. I haven't logged into my LinkedIn profile in about 10 years, so sorry to everybody who thinks I'm horrible that I don't reply to you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I thought you were ghosting me this whole time.
Yeah, whole time.
I understand.
I mean, yeah, that's the hot spot to be, the LinkedIn profile, so I can understand that. Final question I ask everybody, what do you think is the best part of America, and what do you think is the biggest threat to the future of our country?
The best part of America is the founding of this country, and that the founding fathers made this country knowing that you don't get your rights from the government, you get your rights from God. You know, I got baptized about 9 months ago, and it was the greatest, you know, one of the greatest days, one of the greatest decisions of my life. And realizing that the American founding was founded on the principles that you have these inalienable rights given to you by God. I mean, there is no constitution in the world that has that exact same principle in it, except for in America. And this is why the left wants to destroy God in the West, because they hate America. They hate the founding of this country. They want to get rid of it all. The left thrives on chaos. Okay, the left is chaos. Saying that men can menstruate is chaos. Socialism is chaos. All of those things. And God, when he created the heavens and the earth, Genesis 1:1, he created order. That is why the left wants to destroy God. And so I think that the number one thing that we have to preserve in America is the founding documents in this country, and the fact that this country was founded unlike anywhere else, and we don't want to be like anywhere else.
We sure don't. We're pretty great here. And I know a lot of people will tell you otherwise, but find another place where you have the freedoms and opportunities right here in America that we have. You will not find it. So, Will, good luck with the book tour. Good luck with the book. Everybody go check it out at the Will Witt. You can find him. Thank you for joining us on The Right View. And to everybody, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.